These are the sounds that I make when I sit down at my desk. I guess. Okay. Corbin, you ready to do some work? Yeah, he's very quiet. Okay, so earlier today, we sat down and we were doing a bit of a draw. I worked on a page earlier that's posted on the screen right now, and what it is I drew this page in a Sharpie, with a Sharpie, on a purple cardstock. So you have to, you figure out your line art, and then you come in afterwards, well, at least I came in afterwards, with a white pencil, and I added the dimension to it. It's one thing to draw it down with the blacks, like the shades and the dark values, but that's only half the way. The other half of it is to sit down and to add the tints and to add the light shades, light values. So that is what I ended up doing. So then what I thought I would do earlier today, and I continue on tonight, was to sit down with another piece of dark colored cardstock, and this time draw with the white first and add some of the highlights using the black. So we're going to start with white pencil and then go to the black Sharpie. So here is the original art from today. The camera is wackadoo. That's the wrong way. Here we go. No, completely out of whack. Here we go. Hey, look at us. We're figuring it out. Technology's hard. So this is the page that I drew earlier today, and add one more light. Maybe that'll let the purple come through. There's the purple. So and then I drew the bottom panel. So it's just a straight on draw on this purple cardstock. And so the second thing that I did is that I sat down with this dark brown cardstock. I like to flick it to show how thick the cardstock is. For some reason, I do that. I don't know why. Yeah, it's we all have our weird things. Hi, Chris. I didn't think I'd watch you drawing again today. Oh, well, yeah. I thought I'd take a crack at this opposite direction. So in this case, I'm drawing in white pencil. Okay, now I've got two pencils here. One is a lacquer finished solid white lead pencil. And then the other is the old big gun, the Prismacolor, and which is a really soft white that lets you do really solid whites, whereas this guy works more like an intermediate. So what I started doing was drawing this couple as they're standing in a public place in a crowd and taking in the scene. So I didn't have a story in mind when I I hadn't pulled out a one-page suggestion when I'd started this page. So we're just going for it. And the very least, I'm going to finish this first panel. And then we'll figure out, hey, where's this story going to go? So, a little backwards. So in the studio with me, I've got Corbin Korbanski over here. And he's just chillaxing with me. So if he occasionally meows and disrupts me, that's how it goes. All right, so one of the things that I start doing when I'm working with the white on the dark colored surface is that I'll put my initial marks down lightly. And so I highly encourage people to do that. Like, some people are like, nope, just lay the marks where they're going to go. If it works for you, it works for you. But truth be told, There's no right or wrong way to go about it. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. And I feel comfortable with working my way up to it. So yeah. So I start laying in my image very lightly. And if the camera washes out occasionally when I pull my hand away, it's trying to adjust the light, and I apologize if it does that occasionally. So, okay, so I'm putting in the compositional elements here as I'm moving through the image in the one value only, and I added these other little bits just to show, you know, how that Prismacolor pencil's very different. So, but we'll come back and we will do this. But to start off with, I'm going to put it in lightly and build up the entirety of our image. So, approaching it this way, I find it does help me to get a real sense of the overall composition. I find that personally it helps me to get a grasp on, you know, what's what, and as far as it goes for the image at hand. But you know, what the byproduct of that is that while you're working through the drawing and you're making these marks and you're making these value judgments with this softer application, it's actually informing you of where you're going with things. It's informing you of the choices that you're making along the way and the marks that you're putting down, that you're going to know for a fact that this area here is going to be brighter. This track line through here is the ridge of the fold, and so that's going to have a lighter value to it. And so I find it helps you to become a little more conscious and aware of the overall picture and the way that you're approaching it. Now, that's just probably me overthinking, but there you go. Hi, Linda. Welcome aboard. Hi, Tim. So, you know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where, you know, you want to have a general idea. You want to have a general understanding of the whole of your drawing, and but don't expect for the drawing to be like a finished thing right from the onset. You know, you got to build it up. Tim says hi to everyone. Hey, all right. Super cool. So these are the things that I'm thinking of as I'm going about. Like, I'm putting a striped shirt on this guy, and initially his shirt is going to seem not to be that varied in the values on it, but I'm making decisions as I go and how I'm going to make his shirt striped. So what's the repeated pattern, and it's an additional challenge because I'm gonna have to figure out how to develop the folds across each of these different stripes. So what I'll do is I'll put up I'm gonna kick open the other zoom here on the camera so that I can move in on some of this stuff, so it's a little bit easier to see. Just give me a second. All these computer robot things is hard. So here we go. So hopefully I can get my big noggin out of the way. So hopefully this makes it a little bit easier to understand that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and it would repeat down here. And this top is actually 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 from what would be the top cycle of the pattern of the shirt. So, you know, so I want to continue through these layers, these folds that are happening here, and make these little decisions as I go. So, and at the same time, I'm going to see our character in the foreground. I want to pop him off of the background. I want to move him closer to us by having more like a brighter values applied to him, or more clear delineation or more clear separation of him from the characters just in front of him, her from the character in front of her. So we'll have to think about that as we go. So let me see, am I in there? There we go. So I'm going to put another garment wrapped around him, and we'll put it on an angle, a little pitch, so that you know that this is a separate piece of clothing. And we'll have that hanging down from his waist. So complexity in the image. Just to talk to this for a second. Sometimes we overthink about, I got to do a larger scene, and so it's going to be far more complicated. It can be, but take it in small increments. Like in this case, I'm clearly taking this in small increments, right? And so because of that, I'm not looking at it, it's not daunting to me for these pieces of information that I'm putting down right now, because I'm not worried about the whole overall everything. I'm focusing in the moment on this small piece of the composition. I'll pull back a little bit there. You know what I could do? Just get my big head out of the way. Woohoo! Look at me go! There we are. Okay. All right. So, the robot technologies. So I'm putting the back of this fella's neck in here now, and get his ear. So I'm making decisions about how he sits in the context of the image, and what's going to happen in front of him, and how is this going to define, the shape of his head in the scene. So making choices the whole time. And we'll put some more lines. I'm going to develop this in just a second. Cat's already snoring. We just got down in the studio and he's already curled up and snoring. My goodness, Corbin. So here's the third person that's standing in front of them. So now we've got our couple that's closest to us, a person who's somewhat in front of them, and then a person in front of that. And our couple that's in front of us, there's another person in the center between them as well. So I'm just trying to populate the space with a number of people moving forward in the same direction. So, and then that way it builds up some depth in the drawing. So, all right, I'm going to put use a ruler. All right. So I'm just drawing in some of these little bits and bobs in the background, adding some interesting information to the overall, and yeah, keeping it fresh and funky, I guess. But I'm trying to. So the source of the image that I used here, I can't quite make out everything off of it, but that's okay. The whole point is that it gives us a kind of understanding a scenario or maybe characters within it, and the rest of it's all choices that we make along the way, and that's what makes it more our own. So Laurie had told me that it's the American Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, folks. For those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving. Not everybody does, I guess. I don't know. So this is where I had earlier outlined the contours around the characters' heads. Linda says, hey, happy Thanksgiving, folks. But now I'm starting to put in that information from what is on the other side of their heads. So it's sort of, now it makes a little more sense now. And then we're going to commit. So it's basically drawing in white on a dark surface. I think the easiest way to think of it is you're leaving out the black line parts. When you draw line art with your pencil, your pen, your marker, whatever it is, you're putting in the black lines. You're putting in sometimes those contour lines or delineations of the information within the face. Like with the previous drawing I did today, you're putting in the eye, the eyebrow, and you've got little shadow in and around the nose, the mustache in here, the eyebrow, and then you've got this dark shading in and around the eye. When you're drawing with white first, you're drawing all of this other information in and around those areas. You know, now the connection is that you can put in these same values here with a lighter application of white and leaving out what would be the, black areas. But it's just coming at the same image from the opposite way. And it's one of those things where people, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, you do. It's just the opposite. But it's the same as anything else. Carnegie Hall, right? Practice, practice, practice. Such a dorky joke. So here I've got a character coming towards us. And coming towards our two characters with a flamboyant shirt. Now we'll add something to this in a second. I'm going to find the side. I guess this is the side. There we go. We figured out where the drawing takes up. See? Trying to put some solid lines in for the outside of the drawing. Okay, so again, I'm just putting everything down as this one flat value, this one pencil. And as I'm putting in all of these details, does it have to be perfect? Nope. Is there an expectation that a lot of these elements are going to be covered up? Yep. So, Linda asks, what are your favorite art supplies? Well, she's asking Susanna, but anybody else that's involved. What are your favorite art supplies? It's a good, fun question. Thank you. Thank you for asking that, Linda. Okay, so I got to put stairs in on this side. I'm going to do it like this. I did a page, the page that I did yesterday, it was a lot of, I found an image of a street in Tokyo, a back street in Tokyo, and it's just wonderful, really old street with all of these fantastic winding stairs and handmade stairs. And so I just turned it around a little bit in my head and tried to draw a number of different vantage points of the same, the same thing, that environment. I used to have a real hatred for drawing stairs. Now I don't. Now it's part of it all, right? The more we talk ourselves out of one aspect or another being any more complicated in our drawing process, is we're just doing ourselves and our ability for growth harm. Everything can be figured out. It's just giving it a go. Susanna's favorite art supplies are acrylic paint, napkins, pens, pencils. Doing some things for Christmas. Nice gifts. Oh, that's super cool. Nice, I like that. Yeah, I never really know what to do with giving out stuff at Christmas. I always feel like people around me are like, yeah, well, all right, another drawing. Put it on the pile. But that's because I'm not versatile. I'm just doing drawings. Most decoupage on wood and soap. Oh, that's very cool. Do you post on Instagram or somewhere else? Linda's asking Susanna. Oh, she says that sounds like fun. Nice. Okay, so here is where we're at with this image, and I'm just going to put a couple of more little abstract, as we're getting further away from the foreground of our image. I'm just simplifying some of the elements, and the reason that I'm doing so is so that they don't, they're going to be covered up with text. They don't need to draw away the viewer, the eye. So we'll just put some of these in here like this in the background, and yeah, ha ha ha. And so I'm going to come in now with that Prismacolor pen, Prismacolor pencil, and we'll start putting in some of these lighter marks in here, developing up our depth a little bit. Okay, where are we at? Last year it was decoupage on bottles. Oh, cool, very cool. Okay, so here's our overall composition. I'll pull the camera back a little bit here. So there's our first panel, and it's 1/6 of the size of the page, roughly. And so here's our first image. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with this white Prismacolor, which is a very good, it's called the White Prismacolor Premier, PC938. Politically correct pencil. No. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to pick out little areas in people's faces and their clothing, and just to give a little more shape to some things. So I'll pull in, so you can see I've added the forehead and the cheeks and the chin onto this guy. Give him a little bit of a neckline, and then we're going to come in and we're going to put little pokes in his crazy Hawaiian shirt. Maybe it's a Hawaiian shirt. It's loud. It's a loud shirt. Can you hear it? It sounds loud. It's the kind of guy that wears a shirt like this and kicks the door in as he comes in the room and says, "I'm here," like that. That loud. All right, so let's see. You got top of somebody else's head. So the reason that I'm coming through this way and picking little highlights is that it helps to really make a clear understanding of, this dark mass is in front of, we're really going to accentuate that separation of these two planes. And I haven't come in yet with the black Sharpie for anything other than these first couple marks that I made earlier today. I hope the chat's doing okay. My connection keeps cutting in and out, so I apologize if I don't want anybody to think I'm ignoring them. I'm not getting chat tonight for whatever reason. I know it's on. It keeps telling me it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's on. All right, so by going through and picking out some of these values, it just adds a different sense of understanding for the environment in total. So now we know that that's a railing in front of them. No, Linda, I don't. We'd like to see pictures if you show. Oh, Susanna. That would be cool. It's challenging sometimes to show things that we're working on. We worry about ridicule or judgment or anything like that. Everybody does it, but you've made a thing, and that is wonderful. And there are some people out there that are interested in celebrating and seeing a thing. There are also people out there that are interested in, judging and dismissing. Oh, I see, that's that. Well, I've done that. As opposed to just embracing, encouraging the idea that, hey, you've done this wonderful thing. Which group do you think I think you should listen to? Yeah. It's important that you're comfortable with yourself, not worried about the Joneses. Boy, it'd be awful to have the last name Jones, because you got an awful lot of things ascribed to you. People trying to keep up with you. Of course, my last name is Jones. Everyone's trying to keep up with me. So I got to be conscious of these marks that I'm making in the background. I've got a really itchy nose. It's like the tip of my nose, just really itchy. I don't know. Is there some sort of folklore about that? Well, if you got an itchy nose, you know what that means. Your shoe's going to fall off. Your cat's going to start snoring. Too late! So I'm putting... So hopefully it's making a little more clear the separation of individuals now. That you can tell who our person in the foreground is. And I'm going to do a little cheat in a second. Don't tell anybody. Because I'm such a scamper. Is that the word, or is it scamp? So we've got our guy here. I'm going to accentuate that muscle in the arm. And we've got, and I tried to draw or imply that there's a band of color across his arm. Helping Tim make small books for ornaments at the moment. Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. Those would be cool to see. Okay, so here's our guy. So I'm going to come, so the earlier drawing I did today, I used a Sharpie for the drawing part, and then I added in the whites, right? That's right, Chris. So now I'm going to take the Sharpie, and I'm going to be sneaky, and I'm going to put in a couple little accent lines, little spots. Can you see them? So that maybe this helps to further separate our foreground character plural from the people in behind. I still got quite a bit of more information to put on the lady. So I'm going to put a little bit of shape in her hair. I don't know if that'll even show up in the scanning or not, but just to separate that bun in the back of her head. So I'm not doing solid lines. I'm not doing a big contour around the outside edge. I'm picking my spots. I don't need to draw the whole line because the magic of the human eyeball. We fill in. We fill in the rest of it ourselves, the viewer. We might not even realize that we're doing it, but we do. It's like when you look at a picture, and if the picture is just, you know, the top half of the face, on a strange and subconscious way, your brain knows that there's a nose there and mouth there and chin. You kind of fill that in. That's why in the spooky movies, we get scared when we see some sort of like a dysplasia, like at the idea that some of that face is maligned and now monster scary here, because our brain assumes it's you know, doesn't have fangs or, you know, vampire, you know. That's why those are the monsters that sort of stick with us, right? So here's our different characters now. So by putting these little pokes of these little black line separations, it's similar to when, let me see if I can find, oh, I know what I'll show you. Sketchbook B, or as I call it, Sketchbook B. So when I was drawing these images, this is the page from yesterday, and you'll see that some of the elements in here, like in this, the air conditioning units, I did an outline around the contour of this air conditioning unit, and it pulls it off of the background because this color is the same as this color. But how do we give a more clear separation? How, like this, the orange wrapped wire on the wall, how do we separate and make this the orange wires that are closer to us in the foreground? You know, so just picking and choosing those lines. But doing these little outlines draws that off of the background. Linda says, appreciate the drawing. Christopher's making it. It's giving me an idea of how to draw a group of people and show delineation. Excellent. That's super cool to hear. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, we got to find little ways for ourselves. And if you're drawing a group of people, you know, start with one of them. That's the way I look at it. You know, some people will take and just draw out the groups. I'm going off on a tangent. So this is a new sketch. I'm going to pull the camera back for a second. Okay, so this is a new sketchbook. And so what I've got here is I've drawn page after page after page of breakdowns, of just page breakdowns. And that's what this entire sketchbook is me doing composition after composition of figuring out stories, of figuring out how to put that together, and looking at other people and the images that they draw, and, you know, trying to come to some sort of level of comprehension for myself in that, you know, in this story that I want to structure together. You know, so seeing what that gives me, seeing how that helps me, and figuring out a larger narrative. to be able to tell that. And so again, this is an instance where you can see I'm clearly doing an outline for the characters in our foreground. Here's our characters in the foreground here, and then there's this spaceship doohickey landing. So I've got this outline of these characters to make them feel like they're closer to us than that ship is. Another way to also help with that is to have an overlap. And then here I start getting a little more refined and start actually plotting the story and breaking down those pages. But it's sort of like working myself up too. And then there's the layout for the next the direction I'm going. This is another thing I'll do, is lots of little small panels and just little pieces of images. And then the page that I drew for yesterday. So, but using that little separation line, that way to, as Linda was saying, to delineate the characters from their background and other characters in behind them. It's just little applications, little marks. So I'm going to come in here. The Sharpie that I'm using, the reason that I'm using it on the corner here, this Sharpie's dying. And it's but that's great for sketching. If you've got a Sharpie that isn't brand new, that's what lets you have control over your lines like this. That's what lets you put in these really fun, grays, and then you can just overlap and overlap and overlap to put the black in, the more solid dark value. But it lets you have this soft, kind of almost like a pencil crayon application. So I'm putting in a couple of more little nudges, and then I'm going to come back in and come in with that bright white and start pulling the composition back in the other direction. Yeah, it's feeling good. Exactly what this is. So here's top of his ear. Little highlight on the face there. Neck. And then I'm going to make this top line very light, very bright on his striped shirt. And then subsequent levels are going to have different degrees. So this is sort of a halfway point. And then we've got the lighter gray in here. We go back to black. And then there's this one is the midpoint, and then this guy would be the bright white at the bottom. But then we're going to have this second outfit come in here, which is all just white and gray stripes. He's got something wrapped around his waist. Put a little highlight on his elbow. Follow some of those muscles on the arm. So here is our second guy. So I'm feeling pretty good with how this one's coming together. I'm going to put some of the details in on our female protagonist. Little bits of information just to give her clothing some degree of pattern, some degree of interesting marks. But it helps to separate her outfit and her form from his arm and his outfit. So I hope showing these two different approaches to the same, you're answering the same questions of you've got a limited palette here. You've just got your tints and your shades. You got your whites and your blacks, and the color shift is the fact that it's a dark brown paper, and so you're getting, it's kind of like an umber, and so you're getting all these different degrees of brown in your drawing because of your application of the darks and the lights as you're putting them down. So you're getting a whole bunch of color, minimal effort. Just using two tools, and yet you're getting a range of value. And that's good efficiency. And then here's the other arm of her shirt, but because it's inside the shaded area, I'm not going to put, as complicated the amount of marks in there. So I'll pull in on this a little bit, and let's see some of the, so this is some of the marks that I'm putting in to make the pattern on her outfit separate from his. And of course, his shirt has stripes on the arms, but this guy's entire shirt is striped. This dude's got a flat value for the color of his shirt. He's got a Hawaiian thing. So I'm just trying to give each of these characters some differentiation as they're all moving within the same mass. Here's this fella in between these two, and he's got a clearly darker value of modeling in his outfit. So let's move up and finalize some of this information up here. So we'll come in and give a little more form to these characters that are up top, and some of these marks that we've made. So I tend to not draw in, I don't waste a lot of time putting the text on signs. If there are signs or some kind of, my handwriting's terrible. So if I can do that with the Photoshop process, I would sooner do that, so that not only is it more legible, but you can put some pretty kind of fun and cool, interesting effects on it. It's not that I can, it's just I always feel like it looks like I'm making the same type of lettering, Okay, so here's our other person up top. Standing here behind the railing. Hand on the railing, and then there's their legs on the opposite side. Put those stairs going right up to the side of the legs, just to unify those two elements together. And it's a little bit of doodly-doo on these people here. And then after this, I think I need to figure out a one-page suggestion for this to connect to. And then we'll just keep going from there and find our story. Okay, so there's our first panel. And yeah, so it's the same type of composition as our previous, look at that brown really kick out, as our previous drawing today. It's just, instead of drawing the black lines first and then adding the white enhancements to that, we've drawn the white lines and we've put a little bit of black enhancement in there. So the result tends to be the same black and white drawing with on a basic color. It's just the approach is well, I guess it's opposite. But both of us give similar, both of them give us similar results. Okay. See, every time I'm done. And then I'm like, wait, I can put a mark there. Yeah. So, Okay, so there's our first panel. Let's get the book out. 45 minutes already. Wow. You guys are doing great. Let's see, what do we got? So suggestions like this. This is a suggestion that came from Marshall Lee. Marsh makes comics. Check out what Marsh does. What if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self? So now that sounds like a very specific. I have to draw Macaulay Culkin kind of a page, and some of the things I tried to example earlier this week is with the page about a well-deserved meal. I drew the people celebrating the fact that they get to go out for a meal rather than drawing them in a restaurant eating a meal. And, dreaming fantastic worlds was the purple page that I drew today. So I have a character in a mundane situation thinking about magical things and wonderful and letting his mind take flights of fancy because he'd really rather be someplace else. And so when you get a suggestion that's so very specific about what if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self, I would draw conversation of two people talking and somebody saying, what if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self? And the other person would say, who? Yeah. The kid from Home Alone. Remember that kid that slaps his face and screams? And John Candy's in a polka band in that. He's a polka guy. Who? Yeah. So, it's you can apply story suggestions and story ideas in sort of non-linear ways. Somebody's expecting you to draw, somebody facing off against Macaulay Culkin maybe. But no, it's his shadow self. What if, on the other side of the world, here's this person living in a life opposite to mine, or a life where they make all the different decisions that I would make, and if we were to ever to meet, to one another, we try to destroy each other as he's my nemesis. And the other person that they're in the conversation with would go, you get up to some weird thoughts, man. Yeah. So that's what my brain does. I've got to check some of these things off because I know I've done them. I've got the book in my hand, for those of you that are wondering. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do I apply this to something? I did that. I'm going to check that off. Yeah, let's just do the Macaulay Culkin. What if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self? Because I've already yabbered on about it. So why don't I... Today's suggestion is, what if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self? And that comes from Marsh. What if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self? And so, so let's take this idea that I've started to structure together, and let's follow through on it. So let's carry on with these two people walking in this, and he's going to say, hey, what do you think of this? And the other person will say, who? Yeah. So I'm going to take, this is a ruler, and we know it's a ruler, Chris. And so I'm just going to separate out this panel. I'm just going to put a nice little line here. Why are you doing that, Chris? So I leave it alone. Then it says, hi to everyone in the balcony. Be sure to give Christopher a thumbs up or a high five. Give me a high five. Thanks, Linda. So here's our first panel drawn in. So this is just a Jelly Roll pen that I've used and smudged the paper with. What if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self by Marsh? Excuse spelling. Oh no, it's perfect. Thank you. Oh yeah, works. So next image. So let's draw our two characters talking, and see where that takes us. I've got pencil shavings everywhere. This new pencil crayon that I'm using is just lousy. Boop, 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 boop. There we are. So I'm going to come back in with this. This is a solid lead white with lacquer on the exterior. So I'm going to come back and draw our image in with this and lightly pencil stuff in. And in that way, you know, we can build up and add our lighter areas like we just did before. So let's draw the couple. So now we know we've got this angle where we can see the two of them, okay, and they're walking towards something. So let's spin the camera around and we'll draw, as they're walking and talking, we'll draw the two of them chatting it up. And so let's have him, so we want to do a couple things really. We want to make sure that we get the size difference of them correct. We want to make sure that we get the placement of them correct. It's like those little things. As you're turning the camera, you've still got the same characters, right? You're changing the angle. So let's go from there. So I'll draw the young lady first, and we'll see what that gives us. Thank you, Linda, so much for putting that up in the chat. I appreciate it. What does that do? Pins a message. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. I don't know what that means, but it's pinned. Thank you, Linda. All right. Linda's the moderator with the mostest, folks. So I'm going to draw in. Happy to erase. So I'm going to draw in our young lady first as the two of them are walking together. Happy, happy, happy. So this couple that I'm drawing, I'm going to try to draw a couple from India. So we'll see how this goes, because I want to get a couple of cultural signifiers in there and to get, you know, some facial structure correct, and we'll see how this works out. But happy couple. So they're going to some kind of event. I haven't quite decided that part yet, but this is their conversation while they're doing that. Maybe they're going to family get together, because that could be fun. You could have him saying, "Hey, what if Macaulay Culkin was my shadow self?" She says, "What's a shadow self?" And then he tries to explain the idea of, you know, the other. And then, you know, as they get up to the family get together, she says, "Can you please not mention any of this to my family? It's just weird." You know? So there's your story points. There's your story beats that sort of tell themselves to you as you go along. I have given this poor girl a massive nose, and I apologize. So I'm drawing the areas around. I'm drawing the areas that are the surface, raised surface areas. I'm not drawing the parts that we would delineate with the black line art, where we're drawing on a white paper. So I'm leaving out the areas where we would put those black lines in. And I'm trying to come at it in a light, uniform kind of a way, and then we'll add the real punches of light value in with the other pencil that's better at making crisper whites. This whole week, the theme has basically been whether I was conscious of it or not. This whole week, the theme has basically been single color pages, roughly. I didn't realize that I was doing that until I'd done enough of those. Went, oh, I guess I've been doing this all the week. I said earlier today, I really just wanted to draw, just to draw, you know. And I do draw each day. It's just, I just wanted to have the opportunity to just freeform, have a go. Okay, I'm using the other pencil because I don't have a fine point on the pencil in my Happy Pencil holder. It's too short and it's too blunt. I haven't got much opportunity to change that too much. So I'm just gonna, while I'm here, I'm just gonna put some of these little details in her face, in her expression, and hopefully it's camera's close enough for you to see some of those things. And we'll get some raised brow here. And let's put another line underneath that brow. See, the problem of drawing flat is that you just see the nose as this big honking object as opposed to honking nose. Yeah, you're welcome. Didn't realize I was doing it. Whereas we know that this is the under shadow, under the tip of the nose. This is this business, but we've just drawn the whole thing in as one object at the beginning. So it can be a little weird. And it helps to, at me anyways, it helps me to come in and to start to accentuate her face and separate out the raised cheeks and get that smile in there. It helps as I'm going through the process of it, and rather than just waiting to the end. I find that with faces you're going to get more, if you just wait to the end to put the lighter areas or the deeper areas on a face as you're going, then I don't think it lands the same. So here is our character coming in. So hopefully this is a face that is reminiscent of somebody with this Indian background here, Indian culture, Indian individual. Hopefully I'm doing justice in portraying her as such. Now, you know, I could do stereotypical culturally based clothing. I'm not gonna. We're gonna continue on the motif that we're on here, and she's wearing a nicely patterned dress. So, not to say that, you know what I mean. So I'm just doing that raised upper lip. Bringing it down to her chin. The challenge of drawing white on a dark surface is that, you know, you can often make people feel automatically scary. Just because the moody lighting. So figure out ways to play around, you know, Don't be afraid to punch the light areas. Don't be afraid to punch the dark areas. So I've got her ears exposed in that first panel, so we're going to expose her ears here, and her hair is in an updo, so we'll continue that on as well. Now I can add, let's add an earring or something. So we'll put a little circle there so that we can give her, you know, little earring here hanging from her. Just something nice, you know. She's dressed to impress. She's going out for a night with her fella. He's gonna family function of some kind. He's gonna talk about weird stuff along the way, and she'll be like, "Don't nerd out on my family," because stories are universal, right? You know, you'd think that, cultural significance is going to be different over here from different over there. There's an absolutely fantastic thing that dismisses all of that. When they first started translating the Sumerian tablets that they were finding at these ancient sites, and these cities, if they were sacked at the end, they would have wholesale left all kinds of tablets of chits for purchases or debts or things like that, or somebody had written some, impressed onto the clay some note about don't be afraid, don't forget to order some wine, whatever. Well, they found one that was translated, and it's about a father. Maybe it's a journal entry of some kind, or I think they think it might be a letter from him to somebody else, and it's basically, my teenager is lazy. I don't know what's going on in his head and what kind of future he's going to have. And to think that we're talking about a writing that's thousands of years old, and it's the same kind of thing that people today complain about, you know, or concern themselves about. I'm wondering about my young person. I'm wondering about my child. And by the way, it never ends, no matter how old your kids get. For anybody that might not have kids. But here it is, the Sumerian tablet that has a guy talking about his son seems to be listless, and I really wish he would just meet a nice girl. So it made me so happy when I first had heard this, because it just makes us all the same. People are people. So yeah, if you can find little things like that where you're exploring some characters in conversation. So okay, so if the bob is going over to this side in the first panel, the bob has got to be going over to this way in the second panel, because we reverse the direction. And I'm going to put some little ridge line, some hairline. This is where her hair is being drawn back from. So here is our female character now facing the other way. And then I've got to remember to put her in the same outfit, right? And relative pose where her arms are forward or at her side, or I can move the hands. I can move the... It's another way to convey the passage of time, is that by having the characters adjust their arms or talking with their hands, and in the next panel forget it, tells us that there's moment to moment to moment happening. So I could have her point in the foreground, say, hey, look, let's go here. You know, and that conveys to us that this action is the next thing that happens. A lot of times when we're first starting out and drawing stories, it's either everybody's in dramatic poses, you know, leaping and whatnot, or everybody is static and has their arms at their side, you know, and it's tricky to tell the story if every panel is somebody having some kind of existential soliloquy as they're leaping through the air constantly, or trying to express I'm melancholy when you're in this dramatic ha mode. So it's challenging. It's challenging. We got to make decisions, and we got to think about things as we're drawing the images for our story. So I'm going to give her a little collar on her outfit here, on her nice dress there. I draw collars a lot, I think. It's an easily associative, garment, you know. So here she is. So the other thing to keep conscious of is his hand is resting over her shoulder. So maybe I think about the placement of his thumb, and I don't have a lot of room before the end of this image, but maybe I think about his thumb and his first finger here, his first knuckle, and carry that over, and we'll tighten it up with a little bit of accent in there as well. So here he is, hand over shoulder. So we've reversed this to this now, and hopefully the reader is going to be able to follow through with this. And understand what we're trying to put down here. Yeah, okay. That's feeling all right. So there's so here's our first character, and I switched pencils, didn't I? Christopher, you're crazy. So let's come in lightly and to start to develop this, her clothing. These are my tools that we're drawing with here right now. Two pencils and an eraser. So the other thing that we can do is bunch up the fabric here on her shoulder. So here's something fun. Okay, look at yourself in a mirror. Okay, and you can take a book or something, but press the book up against your arm, like you're nudged up against it, and look at how it makes the fabric go on your outfit. And so how do we get that across, that's bunched up more on this side, and we'll raise that shoulder just a little bit. This one's more dropped down, this one's raising up a little bit as she's nudged into the front of her partner. So that'll put more creases and folds on this side as we go along. So, you know, I don't know if this is interesting to folks or not, but I think that taking a crack at something like this really helps you to understand so many more elements in the process, the storytelling process, the image making process. If you're drawing reverse from the norm, makes you have to think, makes your synapses go crazy in your head to think about all the different ways we can make marks. So here's that compression. So you can see I'm incrementally moving the image down here. Just finding my way with the drawing. I'm going to put a fold right here. There we go. And a second one right there. Okay, so here is one of our two characters reversed now. Thought I heard somebody at the front door. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so I'll just put a little bit of shape language in behind here. So let's just suggest that there's another person here, and we'll put the contour of their eye and their cheek coming in, and there's the side of their nose. Sort of pretty reduced down. And then the outline, background peeking through. So there's somebody walking behind her. So we've reversed this crowd so that there's people in behind our couple as well. We're one of them. Okay. I'm not sure if there's noises going on in my house that I don't know what they are. So I think I'll wrap it up for here. So this is yeah. So this is the opposite approach to the approach that I posted earlier today. And you're getting very similar results in your outcome. Okay, you're getting very similar outputs. I tend to find that there's more nuance by drawing white on dark than there is on drawing dark lines and filling it in with white. I tend to find that you'll get far more range in your value system for your mark making than the opposite way. This tends to be a little more opaque and direct, whereas this has far more sophistication in the approach. So it's also just because you're taking different choices here. You're making different choices. I'm sorry, and you're taking different avenues of expressing those lines. And so, give yourself that time. If you don't have colored paper and you want to try this out, and you have something like paint or an ink or a dark watercolor, paint on a piece of paper, and like take a black or a dark brown or whatever it is, and just paint on a sheet of paper and let it dry, and then come back to it with a pencil crayon later, and give it a shot. You don't have to go out and buy whatever materials to do a thing. You can just try to experiment with what you've got in house, and if it's something that connects to you, then maybe that's an approach that you want to apply in the work that you're doing, and to see if it helps you expand your visual vocabulary, expand your toolbox, as it were. Okay, I'm gonna head out. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming by. Thank you very much, Linda, the moderator with the mostest, and everybody that came in and joined us. Thanks everyone for coming by today. Thanks everyone, Christopher Shea. Oh, thank you so much, Linda. Yeah, okay. I'll be back tomorrow in the afternoon. You can come in and do a stream. I hope everybody has a great day, great evening, and I hope to see you then. Yeah, thanks very much, everybody. Bye for now.